Well, hello and welcome back to another week on my allotment. And I wasn't going to post this weekend, it's only a week since my last video, and of course this time of the year it's a really important time on the allotment or in the kitchen garden, because now is the time to get ahead, to prepare the beds, make sure all your infrastructure is as it should be, and you're really ready for when the warmer temperatures come and the weeds start to germinate, which indicates to you that the seeds will germinate, and then we're away. And of course March is the month for that. But we're into February, and I'm well on track. Everything is tickety-boo, and I've had a stroke of good luck. So that has led to a lot more work for me to get things sorted, and I'll explain my stroke of good luck in a second. It's actually Friday. I've said before, work is fairly slow this time of the year, although I come into February with a very low work rate, and I go out of February usually in the full summer workload. So February is an important month for me at work as I start to ring round my customers and initiate my periodic visits to their garden. So welcome along. Welcome to all the new subscribers. I say all the new, it's a couple. You're very welcome. Whether you've been here for the long haul or whether you've just arrived, you are very welcome, as is that sunrise behind me. So this video will be a conglomeration of all the little clips that I've done from a couple of days ago and through this weekend, and I shall be back on the plot on Sunday as normal. So let's talk about my stroke of good luck. Well, you can see my plot there, and here's my neighbour. Doesn't really use it much, and this plot here, the people who use this plot, a couple, when COVID broke out, they took it very seriously, and to all intents and purposes they abandoned the plot, and they've never come back. We renew our contracts at the end of every February, so this time last year I got in touch with the chap and said, there's a few things on your plot I'd be interested in, I assume you're not coming back. And he got in touch and said, no, my wife wants to keep the plot. So that was the end of that. And they've never come back. So here we are, just about to renew our contracts. So I did the same again. I contacted him and said, there's a few things on your plot I'd be interested in. And he hasn't said whether they're coming back or not, but they haven't been back in 3 years. But he said I could have the things I asked for. So let's have a look at them. Well, this is the main prize. Some of you may recognise that as what we call rebar, or reinforcing bar, that's laid in cement to reinforce it and give it integral strength. And the way I think of that, and that's the beauty of allotments, you start to view things as having a secondary purpose. That would make a perfect archway or tunnel to replace the very strong bamboo archway that I grew the gourd birdhouse up last year. So that's what I'm going to do at some point. So I'm really pleased that he's given me those. He also had a couple of these blue barrels on his plot, and he said I could have them. And I went over to pick them up because they had lids on. I couldn't move them. They were solid, full of soil. It took me ages to dig all the soil out. But I've done it, and I've now gained 2 more barrels because I've only got 18 at the moment, so another couple will come in handy. Actually, the soil that was in the barrels has come in handy. So that's one of the raised beds I've constructed, and it's full of well-rotted manure that's been on our site now for well over a year. It's full right up to the last few inches, and then that soil that came out of those blue barrels has just topped the raised bed off nicely. And I've put plastic sheeting in to keep the wood as preserved for as long as possible. So that's one raised bed. That's a second one. This is a third one in the process of being constructed, and that gives you a view of the well-rotted manure that's going in it. Another barrow load there. And the fourth and final raised bed is going to go here where my little cold frame is. I'm going to have to move the cold frame, move some more slabs, and the fourth and last raised bed will go in that spot there. Quite where I put the cold frame, I'm not sure, but it's progressing apace. Well, maybe another coat of paint, but other than that, the 4 raised beds and the cold frame are sorted. It does make it slightly more difficult to get out onto the main path, but I think it will prove useful in the end. And in case you're wondering, that's where the slabs went. Nice little walkway. I'm not going to dig them in and make them flush because they've got that honeycomb plastic matting underneath bedded into the grass, and it'd be a real pain in the neck to dig that all out and then bed that lot in. I think they'll sink and bed in naturally over a year or two, and I've put some heavy duty cardboard underneath those slabs just to suppress the grass for a while. I'm not too worried if the grass comes up eventually between the slabs, which of course it will, because I've got a strimmer and I can keep it in check. So, another job done. Right, snaffy break, cup of tea.
creating a prison entrance then, are you? Let me out! Let me out!
Everyone knows that one day you'd be behind bars.
I didn't mean to do it, Gov.
You're guilty. Guilty as charged. Brilliant. Well, the new arch is up, the rose is tied in. I'm very pleased with it. Not quite sure if I'll grow anything up it this year other than the rose. We have long, Cheryl and I have been juicing fruits and vegetables. I've said before that this 5 a day thing, get your 5 a day, is utter nonsense and not based in any science whatsoever. It was just, they said, well, people have got 5 fingers, they can remember 5, so let's tell them to get 5, because they think people won't eat fruits and vegetables, so if we set it realistic at where they should be, they won't achieve it, so let's give them something they can achieve, which is a really condescending way of treating people. Although I have to say it's probably mostly true. So yeah, we juice a lot of fruits and vegetables, and we have a juice every day. Now the juice we tend to have, there are exceptions, we do some green juices occasionally, but the juice we have almost every day is a carrot juice, and it contains apples, ginger, root ginger, and a bag of carrots, always organic. And the reason for that is the apples are full of goodness and they make whatever juice you produce very sweet. The ginger, I can't begin to tell you. I mean, it's easier to tell you the things that ginger can't do than the things it can. It's so powerful. It's one of the major reasons that Cheryl thinks she never gets ill, whereas the other women she works with in the health centre are permanently ill, sick, some of them with really serious diseases. If I was a GP working in her surgery, I would be looking at what on earth is going on and how so many of the middle-aged women that work in that place are so sick. Cheryl puts a lot of it down to ginger, and I have no reason to doubt that she's right. And then a bag of organic carrots. Now, carrots themselves are not particularly protective against things like cancer. But what carrots do is they promote in the body the development of natural killer cells. And the best way I can think of as a layman to describe natural killer cells is they're like special forces troops that patrol your body environment looking for cancerous cells and other baddies, and they neutralise them. So whilst carrots don't directly affect your health in that way, they, like I say, they promote these natural killer cells, which is exactly what you want patrolling your body. And so many of our processed foods destroy natural killer cells. So that's the juice we drink. And I read a study a couple of years ago now, and I have mentioned it on the channel, that said if you went into a commercial orchard, apple orchard, just after the Second World War in the mid-1940s, and you went into that same orchard today and you compared the apples, an apple from the it would require 18 modern apples to produce the same nutritional benefit as one apple from a post-war orchard. So, and of course that's down to the depletion of the soil, the use and over-dependence on chemicals. And I thought, well, 18 apples, that's incredible. I find that hard to believe. And then this week my wife brought home some apples from Tesco's. Other stores are available. And that's it. I mean, I produced plums in my back garden bigger than that. I mean, even if that was nutritionally dense, which it isn't, it's so small, I can't believe they're allowed to sell that. So, it's just another reason, as if we needed one, to grow your own fruits and vegetables. It's astonishing. The robin is in the house. Perfect drying apparatus. Well, I've said before, we're not out of winter yet, but it's always a nice point in the year when I get the first cut done. It really does tidy it up. And this bed in front of me is the cut flower bed this year, and those two frames or supports are there for the sweet peas, which are already growing rampantly. Well, what a cracking week on my plot. The weather is superb. I've had my little bit of Jordan's luck. Quite a bit of work to get those raised beds done, the rose arch as I'm now calling it. But it's made a significant difference to the plot and given me a little bit more growing room. And I'm thinking at the moment that although the roses just aren't occupying the whole archway, so I think I'll probably grow some cucumbers up that come spring or early summer. So yeah, very good week on the plot. And another significant thing, you've already seen a few clips, is that the birdhouse gourds are starting the end of the journey. And it's nearly a year since I started sowing the seeds. Patience is not a strong point of mine, so it's taken all I can muster to stick with it. So this one, for example, obviously the hole determines what kind of bird you get, with the size of it. I've drilled some holes in the bottom so that should any rainwater get in, it will be allowed to get out. Obviously attached a string, quite a strong string. I don't want the thing to fall when there's young birds in it. And some of the muck is still inside, but apparently the birds will eat the seeds or use that as nesting material. And it's been rubbed down and varnished. Now you can paint them with all sorts of different acrylic paints and pouring paints, and you know, online on YouTube. There's all sorts of things that people do with them. It's quite remarkable. But for me, keep it simple, and that's the job done. I've just got about another 30 to do. So, thank you for joining me on my plot this week. Not quite sure when I'll post again. I wasn't planning to do this one. But whatever you're doing, have a good week, be kind to each other, and I will see you when I post next. Take care. Bye for now.